Hey friends, in this video we are going to see, what if depressed Naruto went to Kurenai's place? This is part 1 and for part 2 do please and comment. And don't forget to check out the author of this fanfic named Breaking Down by XXX Akaketsueki XXX. Let's jump in the video. Naruto flinched as he downed yet another shot of the bar's strongest liquor. He hadn't even paid much attention to how much his liver was begging him to stop his abuse, being that his heart was in much greater pain. As he looked down at the wood of the counter, he became enchanted with how much everything seemed to move around, even though he was sitting completely still. The bartender looks at him and sighs. He's seen some pretty impressive drinkers in his years at bartending this place, but he didn't know anyone who could take 15 shots of his hardest stuff like this kid. And Naruto was a minor, at that. Here, the rule is that the word teen cannot be in the number of your age in order for them to buy drinks. And Naruto is 16. At the other bar across the village, anyone 16 and up could drink. But this one was for adults that had a bit more mileage in life. He had refused to let him buy anything at first, but Naruto insisted that he had money, and needed to drink. If it wasn't for the look in his eyes that the bartender saw, Naruto probably wouldn't even be here. He saw that the kid had been through something, and he could really use a drink. Another. Naruto slurred, finding that his tongue went numb from the chemicals he consumed. The bartender sighed again. Kid, if you have another drink, you'll match your age. I think you've had enough. He says, looking at Naruto sympathetically from across the counter. Naruto looked up at him with a minor glare, finding it hard to focus his eyes on him. I'm fine, just gimme another one. Naruto commanded, extending his hand out as if the bartender would just hand him the whole bottle. The clerk shook his head. Sorry kid, I'm not giving you another one. I shouldn't have even given you one. So why not just go home and stay there for the rest of the night before you do something you'll regret? Before Naruto could reply, the bartender walked away to serve someone else. Asshole. Naruto spat. He rubbed his eye and felt how dizzy he became from doing such a simple action. He almost fell off of his stool. Despite the clerk refusing to give him another drink, he knew that he was right. Naruto is fucked up. He needs to get home now, but decides to wait until some of the alcohol dissipates from his system. If he tried to go home now, he'd fall all over the place. Just then, someone sat in the stool next to him. He looked over and saw that it was someone he knew, but the name escaped him. He knew it began with an R, or an N. It was then that the person looked over at him. Those red irises should have been a big giveaway. However, her name was still unclear to him. He was thinking hard about what it could be, a bit harder than he should be. He missed the fact that the woman was looking at him strangely. Naruto. What are you doing here? He almost missed that she was talking to him. He shook his head to clear his mind, but only ended up making himself dizzier. He recovered enough to properly reply, I'm just, having a few drinks. The woman gave a short chuckle. Well, I can clearly see that, but I know that you couldn't possibly be over 19. I didn't even know that you drink. Naruto laughed, a bit more than he should have. I just felt like having a few. I kinda bugged the bartender to let me in. When the beautiful lady gave a short signature smile, her name became clear to him now. Yuhi. Kurenai Yuhi. Well, I'm not going to bug you, or lecture you or anything. I did a few similar things when I was your age, too. Kurenai said, just, don't overdo it. Too late. Naruto thought. I'll try not to, he said. Kurenai turned her head and ordered to have the same drink Naruto was having. When she got it, her ruby lips parted and allowed the liquid to flow into her mouth. She flinched in shock. Oh my, she exclaimed before looking at Naruto with surprise evident on her features. Naruto. You were drinking this? Naruto chuckled and nodded. She counted the amount of shot glasses surrounding him. This increases her surprise tenfold. And you've had that many? My goodness, you must have a liver made of gold. That, or a demon healing me 24/7. He almost said out loud. Naruto replied by snorting, following with a shrug of his shoulders. Kurenai stared at the remains of her drink, then shrugged as well. Well, this must be some good stuff if it's this strong. I could use it. She pinched her nose, then downed the rest of the liquid in one go. Kurenai rapidly shook her head and was hit with the recoil from the strong liquor. The pinching your nose technique never actually helps like it should. It burned her throat on the way down, so she had to wait a few seconds before talking again. So how's Kakashi doing, and the rest of your team? Naruto almost literally felt his heart stop beating for a second or two when she asked that question. They're fine. Kakashi-sensei is still recovering from the hospital, but he should be out by tomorrow. Naruto had replied to Kurenai's question strangely, but Kurenai thought it could be because of the booze, so she blew it off. Naruto quickly changed the subject, so how's Kiba, Hinata, and, Shino? Naruto nodded. Drunk or not, he could never remember his name. Yeah, him. They're fine. Kurenai ordered another shot of the same stuff. Kiba and Akamaru are knuckleheads as usual. Shino's always the mysterious one, and Hinata will be Hinata. Naruto nodded. He smiled as he remembers his old friends. He should probably pay them a visit sooner than later. Kurenai and Naruto spent the next hour or so small talking about random things. Kurenai, thanks to the bar's strongest stuff, was now almost as drunk as Naruto. But she only had 5 shots. They were now laughing, as Naruto told her about the time he and Kiba got into a non-serious fight regarding food when they were younger. The story itself wasn't as funny as they were making it out to be, however. Another 2 shots slid Kurenai's way. She looked at the bartender to make sure his back was turned, then sent Naruto a sultry grin. She handed him one of the glasses, and drunkenly held her index finger in front of her lips. She then extended her glass. To good times, she proposed. Naruto grinned and collided his glass with hers. To good times. They then took the whole shot in one go simultaneously. Once Naruto put the glass on the counter, the world around him began to spin out of his control. Then, all of a sudden, he felt as if he were flying. Thud. Naruto hit the ground hard. Naruto groggily woke up with his eyes still shut. He groaned and creaked his eyes open, light searing into his retinas. Naruto-kun, you're up. Are you okay? He barely heard a voice say to him. His eyes got used to the light a bit, so he leaned up from where he was laying and looked around. It was then he realized that he had the mother of all headaches. He also saw that he was no longer in the bar. He wasn't even in his own apartment. He was in an unfamiliar home. One decorated with many flowers. He then saw Kurenai at his side. How he missed spotting her the first time he looked around, he'll never know. He must still be drunk. He groaned, holding his throbbing head. What happened? Kurenai gave a soft smile. You overdosed at the bar and passed out. Naruto thought about it and could just faintly recall himself having drinks with Kurenai. His smile slid into a frown. Are you alright, though? You hit your head really hard. Well, that explains this huge headache I have, he thinks to himself. Yeah. I'm fine, just got a headache, he tells her groggily. Oh, that's good, at least it's not anything major. She frowns a bit more. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gave you another drink. Naruto sat up on the couch he was laying on. Kurenai sat beside him and gently rubbed his head. It's fine. Naruto mumbles. He looks around the room one more time. This is your apartment? Kurenai nods. Yeah. I would have brought you to your house, but I don't know where you live. The Uzumaki shrugged. It's fine. He felt his head pulse, giving him more pain. How long was I out? Kurenai looked at him sympathetically. For around 30 minutes or so. Naruto nodded. That explains why he still felt drunk and could smell the lingering alcohol in Kurenai's breath. Are you sure you're okay? Do you want anything? Water? Tea? She offered politely. Naruto thought for a second. Yeah, I'm okay. And a glass of water would be nice. Kurenai nodded and walked into the nearby kitchen. She returned a few seconds later with 2 tall glasses of water. She handed one to him. Thanks. He replied, drinking the water to help get rid of the taste of alcohol. You're welcome. Kurenai takes a sip of her own. While Naruto was still gulping it down, Kurenai looked at him with wondering and concerned eyes. Naruto? Naruto took a breath after swallowing the rest of the water in his mouth. Seriously. Why were you in a place like that, drinking? Naruto paused. For once in the past 24 hours, what happened yesterday left his thoughts for a while. I needed to get away. Kurenai frowned. Get away from what? Naruto sighed. Reality. The room became awkwardly silent. The red-eyed beaut gave a short, sad chuckle. I can relate to you on that. I think that's why I came there, too. Naruto looked at her, and could see how much pain showed on her face. He hesitated to ask this question, what happened? Kurenai rubbed her eye. Not because it was bothering her, but because she didn't want him to see a tear fall down her face. She cleared her throat in an attempt to fix her cracking voice. My baby was miscarried yesterday. Naruto dropped his glass. His eyes grew wide. Wah. Oh my god. Wait, I didn't know you were pregnant. I was only about 2 months pregnant, I wasn't showing much, and I didn't tell anybody. I wanted to keep it a surprise, she said, looking at the floor. Naruto was speechless for a few seconds. I'm so sorry, Naruto told her, feeling really concerned for Kurenai at this point. If you don't mind me asking, who was the father? I'm sure you know who Asuma Sarutobi is. Shikamaru's sensei? Kurenai nodded. Really? Well, I did see you two together a lot. Kurenai gave a small laugh. The room went silent again for a few more seconds. What did he say? About the, Kurenai shook her head. He doesn't know. About the miscarriage or the baby in general. Naruto paused. Why didn't you tell him? Because. Kurenai tried masking her sadness and anger with a bitter smile. The fucker dumped me yesterday. Naruto's eyes went wide in disbelief. What? Why? Kurenai's teeth was grinding, because he didn't feel that things were working out. This time, she didn't stop a tear from falling down her face. What pisses me off the most about the whole situation is that yesterday was the day I was going to tell him that I was pregnant. It was almost as if he knew. Naruto had a hard time believing her. He may not have known Asuma all that well, but he seemed like a really good guy. He would have never guessed that Asuma would break up like Kurenai like that, whether he may have or may not have known that she was pregnant. Kurenai continued after a brief pause, and that's when I lost the baby. I guess that whole moment just stressed me out so much. That. Kurenai couldn't continue. She buried her face into her palms, sobbing and crying her eyes out. Naruto didn't know what to do or say. Kurenai's situation was indeed sad, and he couldn't blame her for crying. He couldn't help but move closer to her and hug her. Once his arms enveloped around her, Kurenai clung to him, burying her face into his jacket. Naruto rubbed her back up and down delicately. Why, Naruto? She sobbed, I don't understand. Why do these things happen to me? Naruto simply shushed her. He told her to just let it all out. 30 minutes later, Kurenai's tears finally went dry. Her sobs died down, and she eventually separated from Naruto. She wiped away the smeared tears that remained on her face as she looked at Naruto. Sorry about your jacket. Kurenai's tears had soaked through his jacket and the undershirt underneath. It's all right. Do you feel better? Kurenai nodded, a little bit. I could still use a drink. Me too, said Naruto. Kurenai looked at him. Naruto, I think you've done enough drinking for the day. She paused. You still never told me why you were at the bar in the first place. Why were you trying to get away from reality like I was? Naruto sighed, avoiding eye contact. He didn't know how to explain things to her. He didn't even want to. He hesitated. I've done something unforgivable yesterday. Kurenai gave him her full attention. If you don't mind me asking, what did you do? Naruto broke down. His face was in his palms, sobbing just as Kurenai had been more than 30 minutes ago. I didn't mean to do it. I keep trying to convince myself that it wasn't my fault, but I'm so angry at myself. After a brief pause, Naruto tries to gain his composure back with a deep sigh. I have killed someone very close to me. Kurenai was not ready for him to say that. She was stunned. You killed. But how? Why? She sputtered. She didn't want Naruto to feel worse by making him explain more, but she felt that she had to know what happened. Naruto held back a sob. I'm sure you know about me being the container of the Kyuubi. Kurenai hesitated. She didn't expect for him to bring up a matter like this. Yes, I'm aware. Well, Naruto began, when I get really pissed off, the Kyuubi's chakra leaks out and takes over my body and mind somewhat. It's like a Kyuubi-like state of sorts. Kurenai was surprised to hear this. She always knew about him containing a demon fox, but now she knew never to piss him off. And yesterday, my squad and I were on a spy mission to get information from Kabuto and Orochimaru. I'll skip some details, but eventually, I confronted Orochimaru. As we fought, he was saying some things that really got to me. I got so angry. Naruto paused. I blacked out. Whenever I go into that Kyuubi state, I'm always somewhat aware of my actions, even if sometimes I can't control them. But not this time. All I remember is Orochimaru saying something to me, then me waking up. Everything in between is fuzzy. Kurenai nodded slowly. When I woke up, Yamato-sensei was by my side. I looked around and saw that everything looked as if a meteor hit, but he told me that I was the one that did it. What happened to Orochimaru? She asked. Yamato says that he fled. Fucking coward. Naruto spat. He then closes his eyes. A tear slowly slid down his cheek, from his eye, past his whisker marks, then dripped down from his chin. I then noticed that someone was missing. I asked Yamato-sensei where Sakura was. I'm sure you know who she is. Kurenai nodded. The girl with the pink hair that would beat you up from time to time, your teammate. She had to admit, the pink hair was a feature that would ensure that she would be a tough person to forget. Naruto chuckled sadly. Yeah. I asked where she was. Yamato pointed next to me, and there she was. Naruto choked. More tears started falling. Kurenai couldn't believe what Naruto said next. She was on the ground, bleeding to death. Yamato told me that. I attacked her. The air around them became heavy. Naruto was sobbing into his hands, while Kurenai's eyes were wide in shock. It felt like a while before either of them spoke again. My heart broke so bad, it felt as if it literally was ripped apart. I actually felt physical pain in my chest. We tried to get her to a hospital, but we were too late. Sakura-chan, the love of my life, died. And I was the one who killed her. The whole situation. Naruto crying, hearing of the death of a fallen comrade, the fact that Naruto was in just as much pain as she was in, made tears flood her eyes as well. She did the only thing that she could think of doing, she hugged him. Naruto tensed up, and looked at her, surprised. Why are you hugging me? Naruto questioned. I'm a fucking monster. I killed my teammate, the love of my life. So why are you? You're not a monster. Kurenai whispered to him. She pulled back a bit and looked straight into his pupils. Naruto-kun, you cannot blame yourself for this. Sakura may be dead, but I can assure you that you weren't actually the one who killed her. The Kyuubi did. It was a very unfortunate incident that happened, but it wasn't your fault. You had no control over it. But my fucking temper, Naruto exclaimed. I went into the Kyuubi state because I let Orochimaru get to me. I'm so fucking stupid. Shinobi are supposed to detach their feelings on missions and in battle, and the fact that I blacked out like that makes me weak. I always talk about becoming Hokage one day, but now I feel like I don't even deserve to be a shinobi anymore. Kurenai could see that he was really angry with himself. She became a bit startled when his irises faded into a very deep red color. Naruto tried calming himself down, and his irises were no longer red but purple. So, I guess I can say that I kinda lied to you. I wasn't at the bar because I wanted to get away from reality. Well, I did, but not the same way you were. I wanted to kill myself. I don't have the balls to slit my throat or anything, and trust me, I've tried. So I was hoping to drink myself to death. Naruto chuckled bitterly. It's funny, because for a fucking demon that made me kill my teammate, makes it hard to kill myself with its healing factor. Naruto. What? Kurenai slapped him. The fact that she did it surprised Naruto. Kurenai held a stern face, but concern was still spread across it. Naruto slowly turned his head back and looked at her. What was that for? Kurenai's hand stung, and wondered exactly how hard she actually smacked him. Nevertheless, her expression never changed, because, you're not being you right now. You're speaking nothing but nonsense. Naruto glared at her. You don't know me. I know that if a past version of you were to see you now, he'd slap you, too, she said. I know I don't know you all too well, but I know that this, she pointed at him, isn't you. I don't know who this is, but it definitely isn't Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage of Konohagakure. Like I said before, you're not a monster. You're not weak, and you have no legitimate reason to beat yourself up, let alone kill yourself. You don't understand. Naruto told her, I deserve to leave. If I can't control my actions with a fucking demon inside me, I'm a threat to everyone I cared about. I already saw that for myself. I don't want to kill myself because I'm sad or angry, but because I feel that I have to, for the sake of everyone else. You're wrong. Kurenai responded. You do want to kill yourself because you are sad and angry. The Naruto I know would let this be a learning experience, and would try harder to keep his emotions intact for the future. He would train. What happened on that mission is very unfortunate, and is indeed very sad. I don't blame you for falling into depression, but you shouldn't stay down there, like this. You should bounce back up, dust yourself off, and move forward, despite what happened. Naruto was silent for a while, simply staring at Kurenai as she stared back at him. It's really easy for you to say that, when you're not the one on the receiving end. You're wrong about that, too. She told him. I can relate to you a lot on this. Do you know how happy I was when I found out I was pregnant? I was so happy to start a family, to bring new life into this world. But when I got my heart broken by Asuma, and lost my baby, I was in the same condition you were in. I blamed myself for letting my emotions hurt my baby. I wanted to blame Asuma, and even though it was partially his fault, I was to blame, too. No, Naruto said. No one can blame you for feeling hurt when your heart's been broken. And no one can blame you for getting angry when Orochimaru provoked you. Not many things can get to you, Naruto, I can tell. But what Orochimaru must have said probably almost had the same impact on you as Asuma breaking up with me had on me. Naruto had no comeback. Our situations may be different, but they've affected us in similar ways. I wanted to kill myself because of what happened, too. But not for long. I was at the bar because, although I bounced back from what happened somewhat by locking myself in my room and having a long discussion with myself, I was still hurt. And I used liquor to numb that pain temporarily. It's a bad excuse, I know. But I know I'd be okay. I promised myself that the only way I'd die was from protecting and serving my village. Isn't that the #1 rule to remember in order to be a shinobi? Yeah. He mumbled. And again, you're not weak. Once you've received your Hite 8, you deserve to be a shinobi. And you will become Hokage one day, Naruto. How come? You seem like you know me well, when we hardly even talk, he asked. Because, you've made a name for yourself around the village already, Naruto. I've seen you and your antics as a person before you even became a ninja. You were so happy, undeterred by other people trying to get your hopes down, so persistent to get everyone to recognize who you were. I respected that. A lot of the people here saw and still see you as just the container of the Kyuubi. But not me, not with a smile and personality like yours. I was actually hoping to have you as one of my students, so I could show you that not everyone hated you, she said. You're an amazing, unique person. And to see you like this, willing to throw away everything you worked for breaks my heart. If I have enough strength to get back up from my dilemma, I know you can. But, Naruto stuttered, the pain, it hurts so much. Kurenai gave him her sweetest, most considerate smile. She reached up and caressed the cheek she slapped a moment ago. That slap I gave you earlier, it hurt, right? Naruto nodded. Yeah. Does it hurt, now? No, see, Kurenai said. All pain is just temporary, no matter how severe it is. Some pains may take longer to heal than others, but nothing is infinite. Your dilemma probably hurts you more than mine does to me, because you're young. This is probably the first time you've had an experience like this. But for me, I've had my heart broken before, and this isn't the first time where my emotions affected those close to me. Yes, shinobi are supposed to separate their emotions while on duty, but for most people, that's almost impossible. I still struggle with such matters, however, that's life. Everything is a learning experience, and no matter how hard it gets, we have to move on. If you were to kill yourself now, you'd lose all your respect from me. And Hinata, Kiba, Shino, Kakashi, Sunade, and all your friends and comrades, including Sakura, as well. The only way we want to see you die is because you went down fighting for your village, just as you had promised Iruka when you became an official shinobi of the Leaf. She smiled softly at him. Never give up, Naruto. You promised yourself that you'd become Hokage. And isn't that your nindo? To never go back on your word, no matter what? You've been shouting it around the village for quite some time. Naruto stared at her, in shock. She was absolutely, 110% correct. About everything. Her words finally broke into his stubborn mindset, and was now changing the way he was thinking. Naruto ambushed her in a tight hug, something that caught her off guard. but she simply smiled and returned the hug. "Thank you," Naruto said. "You're welcome," Kurenai whispered. "You just needed someone to remind you about a few things, that's all." The pair remained in this position for at least 10 whole minutes. Naruto was still crying, as was Kurenai. "Kurenai?" Naruto mumbled. "Yes, Naruto-kun. I'm still hurting, though." "It's okay, so am I, but we just need time to heal, and maybe we can help each other through this process." Naruto nodded. He was perfectly fine with that. Soon, they both pulled back a bit. They stared at each other. Blue irises met red ones. Then it happened. It was as if their bodies moved on autopilot. Their heads slowly inched closer together like magnets until their lips connected. Electricity sparked between them, and their bodies became hot, yearning. The kiss was so passionate. Their hearts were still in pain, and that connection, that identical heartache, let them link together on more than just a physical level. Soon, Naruto found himself on his back, with Kurenai on top of him, kissing him with just as much passion and force as he was letting on. Then slowly, more and more clothing was found discarded onto the hardwood floor. Naruto woke to the sound of dripping water. He opened his eyes, and found himself standing ankle-deep in water. The room he was in was poorly illuminated, being poorly lit up by a few torches hanging up on the walls. In front of him was a large cell with iron bars. There was what looked like a note placed on the bar right in the middle. "Naruto's been here before. More than once. Naruto-kun," he heard from behind the bars. Naruto grimaced and crossed his arms. "What? You know I have no intention on talking to you, or even seeing you after what you did." "After what I did?" the voice replied. From beyond the shadows in the cell, walked a red-headed woman that shared Naruto's whisker marks. Her eyes were blood red, and 9 long tails flailed patiently behind her. She looked to be in her earlier 20s, and had the face of every man's dreams. Her body was divine, and the red kimono-like dress she wore stopped after her hips, showing off her evenly toned legs. The red lipstick over her full lips accentuated them perfectly. This goddess-like woman sent a teasing grin Naruto's way. "You mean kill your precious teammate?" "I don't believe that I was the one that did it. If memory serves correct, you were the one that did it, Naruto-kun." Naruto clenched his fists, but kept his composure otherwise. "No, you did. I would never hurt Sakura-chan." He was really trying not to burst out with anger. He was face to face with the demon that killed the most precious person to him. He wanted to fucking strangle her. But, he couldn't do that for many reasons. "I can't forgive you for that." Kyuubi shrugged, with an amused smile. She then looks around herself, as if looking for something. "Sorry. I couldn't find the fuck I wanted to give. I must have had it somewhere in this darned cell." Naruto gritted his teeth. She was teasing him. Seeing Naruto's displeasure brought pleasure to her. She grins even wider. "Do you hate me? You want to kill me, don't you?" "Yes." Naruto grumbled. "Too bad, you can't." She loved to mock him, "and I'm glad you stopped destroying yourself. It was getting exhausting to constantly heal you." "So why were you doing it?" Naruto asked. "Because if you die, I go down with you. We've had this discussion before. I could really care less about your death, but I was meant to be immortal and I plan on keeping it that way." Naruto's ability to keep his cool is really admirable. She didn't care one bit about him in the least. And even she was surprised at how well he was remaining calm, despite how much she was picking at his nerves. "Why do you hate me?" Naruto asked. He said it, not in an angry nor sad tone, but in a tone that showed that he was really curious as to why she treated him like this. Kyuubi raised one of her reddish-orange eyebrows. "Hate you? I don't hate you." Naruto raised one of his eyebrows as well. "So why do you treat me the way you do?" Before Kyuubi could reply, he elaborated, "I mean, we're practically handcuffed together. If I die, you do. And I'm assuming that it's the same the other way around. So why do you act like such a complete bitch to me? What have I done to you?" Kyuubi chuckled and placed a hand on her hip. "Silly boy. I'm going to answer your questions in order. I treat you this way because I can." She shrugged. "Simple as that. It's not that I hate you. I act this way because it's fun to see your misery. I'm a demon. I'm not like you humans, who can enjoy seeing others' happiness. I love to see you cry. I love to see you angry. I don't know why, but I just get a kick out of it. I mean, yeah, I'm not happy about being sealed inside you. But that's not your fault, so I'm not angry at you or anything, and you haven't done anything to deserve the way I treat you. I just do it because I love your pain. It makes me smile. She stated that whole explanation with a grin on her face. It's really simple. Naruto could only stare at her. You're a twisted, evil, sick bitch. Kyuubi's laughter echoed throughout the whole room. Well, if that's the way you want to put it, I don't care. Both of them remained quiet for a moment before Kyuubi spoke again. I was hoping you'd snap after I killed Bakara. Naruto's eyebrows inched closer together. It's Sakura. Kyuubi rolled her eyes and looked around. Well, I still can't find that fuck I wanted to give. Oh well. Like I was saying, I was hoping you'd snap after I killed her, so I could convince you to take that damn seal off. She says, pointing up at the bar with the paper on it. Doesn't look like that'll happen. And you were drunk, too. I could have had the perfect opportunity, if it wasn't for. What was her name? Kurenai? Kurora. It's Kurenai, never mind, I don't care. Kyuubi interrupted him, as if she didn't even hear him talk. I'm going to have a little chat with her, soon. Both of Naruto's fists were clenched so tight, he almost drew blood. He marched toward the cell, to the point where he was literally 5 inches from Kyuubi's face. Listen, you fucking bitch. You're not coming near Kurenai or any more of my friends. I simply won't allow it anymore. Kyuubi was still grinning. Hey, or else what? You'll hurt me. Even if you were able to lay a finger on me, I don't think you stack much of a chance against one of the world's most powerful demons in existence. If you come near my friends again, I'm going to kill myself, and take you with me. Oh, and go back on your word about becoming Hokage? Naruto paused. She had him cornered. This was what brought Kyuubi the utmost joy. Seeing his confusion, misery, anger. That's what I thought. You can't stop me, Naruto-kun. I'm going to become free from you one day. Right now, I'm just counting down until that day comes. Naruto was angry. Fuck you. Stay the hell away from my friends. The demoness put on a mock frightened face. Ooh, I'm so scared, I think I'm gonna piss myself. She then grins and crosses her arms. You're not intimidating anyone, kid. So get over it. Soon, Naruto-kun, very soon. I will get out of this seal. Naruto sneered. I'm not going to let that happen. I can bet that on my life. Naruto then sent her a challenging grin. Don't underestimate me. Naruto woke to find himself in a bed much more comfortable than his own. He also felt pressure on top of his body. His eyes opened, and a big batch of ebony hair blocked his view atop of his chest. His head felt heavy and throbbed in tune with his heartbeat. And his eyes felt unfocused, blurring his vision slightly. It was then that he realized that the hair on his chest was from someone's head, and the pressure on his body was because that someone was on top of him, asleep. Before he freaked out, he turned his head to look at her face and saw that it was Kurenai. He was about to freak out again until flashes of what happened the night before popped back into his memory. All he could remember was the deep, emotional talk they had, then the kiss, then magic happening. However, everything before him waking up in Kurenai's house last night was a bit foggy. He gazed at her. He found his sleeping face beautiful, even with her messy hair. She moved a bit in her sleep, and it was then that Naruto remembered that they were both still nude. Their previously sweaty bodies had dried up, sticking them together just a bit. It was then that her eyelids fluttered open like a butterfly preparing for takeoff. Her eyes looked weary, and had bags under them. Her red irises slowly analyzed the setting around her, before settling on Naruto. She seemed surprised to see him at first, but like him, the memories started coming back to her. She smiled at him awkwardly, and Naruto did the same. Naruto mumbled, "Good morning." She hesitated before replying, "Good morning, Naruto-kun." Then, there was silence. Kurenai fidgeted and adjusted herself. Do you remember what happened last night? Sort of. I remember waking up in your apartment last night, and, everything after. He said coyly. What about you? Yeah, I remember the same. She says. She then got off of him, rolling over to the other side of the bed. The headache due to her hangover didn't appreciate this, however. So. Last night. You remember us ending up like this too, right? Naruto blushed slightly. Yeah. Kurenai nodded, then hesitated again. Was that your first time? The Jinchuriki's blush reddened. Yeah. Kurenai wanted to facepalm herself. Great going, Kurenai. You've just taken a hurting boy's virginity. It was then that something confused her a bit. She looked at him, eyebrow raised, with a blush tainting her cheeks. Naruto-kun. Are you sure? Because last night, she cleared her throat, you really seemed to know what you were doing. Naruto was surprised. What she said was a slight ego booster, but the moment was far too awkward to take much notice to it. Really? Well, that was the first time I did anything like that, so. A tiny smile spread across his face. Was I, good? Kurenai had to stop herself from replying right away. Yes, very, actually, she said. Even better than Asuma, she thought. Naruto had to hold back the large grin threatening to spread over his face. Oh. Well, we were still drunk when it happened, so. Maybe that's a factor. Possibly, Kurenai said, but, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw myself at you like that. You're still young, and I wasn't in my right mind to do that. Naruto felt as though he should be apologizing. You didn't throw yourself at me. I was the one that kissed you, so, shouldn't I be apologizing? Kurenai shook her head. No, I pretty much did it. I was feeling hurt, lonely, sad, drunk. There was a lot going on with me, and I don't think I controlled my actions too well. I thought that if we did what we did, it would help both of us feel better. She chuckled. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, Naruto mumbled, it did help. Or at least it did for me. It did? She asked. Yeah. I mean, when I think about it, it feels weird. But everything after the talk last night helped me feel better a little because it didn't feel dirty, or perverted, or anything like that. It felt right. Naruto scratched his head, a sweat drop pasted on his forehead. I don't know if I'm making much sense. Kurenai thought for a minute before responding. I can understand where you're coming from, because I actually feel the same way. She blushed. It felt good. Not just physically, but it felt like we've kind of bonded and helped each other feel better, because we were both hurting. I didn't really want to admit that at first, because you should have lost your virginity to someone you love, not to a friend who was drunk and hurting. Naruto hesitated. With all due respect, I don't have any regrets, he said. I mean, sure, I would have never expected to, do this with you. But, Naruto smiled, I'm glad it happened. I still feel terrible, and I'm still in pain from what happened, but after last night, you really helped me feel better. Naruto smiled at her, and she smiled in response. Then, they blushed and avoided eye contact. That's why I feel like I was the one forcing myself onto you. I think you're really beautiful, Kurenai. She blushed even more, and, I just went with my gut feeling. I may have been drunk, but it still felt right. I just hope that I've helped you feel better as much as you helped me. Kurenai gave a small smile. You did. My only regret was that I was your first. But I'm kind of glad you were. Naruto said honestly. She smiled in appreciation, then went into thought. Naruto-kun? Yeah. She fumbled with her words a bit. Do you have feelings for me, right now? Naruto wasn't prepared for that question. He really had to consider how he should answer. Like romantic feelings? I think you're really pretty, and a great person for helping me set my mind straight. And after last night, I feel like we've grown serious connection. But, Naruto's head started to hurt more. Now that he was thinking so much, I don't know how I feel right now. I like you a lot, but I can't tell whether or not I love you. Kurenai let out a breath of relief. She's not the only one confused here, and at least she won't have to worry about Naruto becoming too attached to her. Or the other way around. Maybe. Well, that's only because we hardly know each other. I have to agree that last night was magical, and we do kind of have a big connection now, despite how sudden everything happened. But you and I are still going through tough times, and it's hard to tell what we feel at this point. Naruto nodded. He stared down at the covers resting on his legs as everything became painfully silent. So, Naruto mumbled, what happens now? Do you want me to leave and forget everything that happened? No, of course not. She told him seriously, I wouldn't just kick you out like that. You helped me, and I helped you last night. You're now welcome to come here whenever you want to. Just as long as you keep the place clean, of course, she said with a playful smile. The blonde smiled, thanks, that means a lot. He then thought to himself for a bit, so, does this mean that we're in a relationship? The brunette was uncertain how to answer that question. I think it's too soon for something like that. We've gotten closer, but we still don't know each other enough for that. Plus, we're going through hard times. Both of our hearts are broken, so I don't think it'd work out. Kurenai was about to continue when she saw the look of disappointment on his face, but he started first. It's okay, I understand. You're right, it's too soon for something like that to happen right now. The Junin smiled appreciatively and caressed his cheek. It doesn't mean it can't or won't happen, though. It may not be set in stone, but I don't think I would mind going that step further with you. She said, you may be young, but you have a wonderful personality. You have a heart of gold, a lot of charisma, and you're not a bad looker, either. Maybe if we took things slow, one at a time, we could form something special. But if we try to start that too soon, everything might just end terribly, and I don't think you nor I want to take that risk. Naruto nodded. He wasn't disappointed with her answer. Everything she said was true. You're right, I understand, he said. Then the painful silence creeped into the room again. Kurenai. Yeah, I'm still hurting. She cupped the side of his face. It's all right, I am too. Kurenai. He looked right into her dazzling red eyes. I don't really know how to put this, but what we did last night, is it okay if we did it again? Kurenai blushed. I don't know if we should make this a habit, Naruto, she said. Yeah, I get that, but I just want to one more time. He told her, we were drunk when it happened, and I want to have that experience, you know. Sober. After that, we don't have to do it anymore. He then looked away. But if I'm asking for too much, I understand. Kurenai planted her lips onto his passionately. Kurenai looked back at Naruto in shock, as her left buttock began to sting. Naruto-kun. Who taught you to do that? She then gave a flat expression, knowing the ants already. Jiraiya, right? Naruto blushed and nodded. Yeah. Sorry. Kurenai gave a dirty grin. Don't apologize. I actually liked it. She said, like I said, you can be rough this time. So don't be afraid to be a little aggressive. Then with Naruto's grin and nod, she grinned as well and laid her head back onto the bed. Her back was arched, and her ass was high in the air, held by Naruto's hands. The squeaking sounds from the springs of Kurenai's bed, the banging sounds from Kurenai's headboard hitting the wall behind it, and the slapping sounds coming from Kurenai's butt colliding with Naruto's lower abdomen area all started resuming again. Naruto threw his head back as he pushed into Kurenai repeatedly. It was so tight, so wet, so warm. His heartbeat began accelerating again, and his body became hot. The feeling is indescribable. He found it beat the hell out of masturbation. And even though he had the memory of similar experiences from yesterday, he couldn't recall it feeling as mind-blowing as it did now. He could now relate to Jiraiya on what he obsessed over in the past few years. Kurenai bit her lip once she felt Naruto impale into her over and over again. Her eyes were shut. Even after the 3 climaxes Naruto and Kurenai shared, she was as wet and aroused as ever. Asuma could never go 4 rounds. Hell, he couldn't even measure up to Naruto, in the most relevant term. She felt Naruto go deeper and deeper, giving her the utmost pleasure. She wanted to scream. But she didn't want to freak Naruto out. She simply tried to keep her mouth shut, despite the moans that inevitably escaped her vocal cords. Smack. All hopes in holding back her scream went out the window once Naruto struck her ass again. It was the right cheek this time, and he did it harder now that he knew Kurenai liked it. She let out a somewhat loud outburst once it happened, but, to her surprise, Naruto didn't stop once he heard it. In fact, he started going faster. Reaching in deeper. Handling her rear end even rougher. Kurenai let go of any restraint she had. Ooh, yes. Don't stop. MMMNNN. She cried out, loving the increase of pleasure Naruto gave her. She reached to fondle and handle her bare melons and jipples to increase her pleasure along with her lover's assault. Naruto loved her words and sounds of encouragement. He also loved the smacking sound of his lower abdomen unmercifully smacking into her ass. It was hypnotic, and made him want to increase his pace. He hung his head from the feeling of Kurenai's pleasing womanhood. He became enchanted at the sight of Kurenai's round ass. It held a red mark on each cheek, one lighter than the other, contrasting with her pale skin. He watched as it jiggled with each collision, almost like shaking a pack of gelatin. His sight then moved down to his penis slipping back and forth through Kurenai's lips. His stiff manhood shined, almost dripped with Kurenai's excessive fluids. He then closed his eyes. The sight of all this could make him climax sooner than he would hope. Lemon skipped here. Naruto started pounding even harder, faster. All Kurenai could do was squirm and beg for more. Her heart was racing, and the thought of a possible heart attack worried her for a quick second. Each stroke built up her orgasm even more, little by little. She had a hard time breathing properly, as less oxygen was being brought to her brain. Then, like the fireworks that go off on January 1st 12:00 a.m., Naruto exploded deep into Kurenai. As if that were her cue, Kurenai came hard, as well. Both their eyes rolled into the back of their head. Naruto grunted loudly, but were overrun by Kurenai's moans and yelps of pleasure. They both were momentarily unaware of their surroundings, as their brains and thoughts became clouded with pure lust. Soon, their orgasms died down, and Naruto gently collapsed atop of Kurenai. They were both breathing as if they just gave birth, sweating, being unable to move. They both lingered in the aftermath of great lovemaking, surrounded by sweat and the aroma of Dex. Kurenai had to wait a few minutes before she could properly gain her breath. That was amazing, she said to no one. It's so damn hard to believe that you were a virgin. Naruto chuckled tiredly. Well, I am. Well, was. He then moved to kiss Kurenai, which she gladly accepted. That was hot. Naruto knew that wasn't Kurenai's voice. Kurenai knew that voice couldn't possibly come from Naruto. They broke the kiss and looked at each other wide-eyed. They then whipped their heads toward the doorway. In it, revealed Anko, who was leaning against the door frame, staring at the couple with an amused smile. They panicked. Naruto quickly attempted to get off Kurenai and try to cover himself, only to fail, landing headfirst onto the floorboards. Kurenai, now free, had struggled to cover herself as well, but couldn't, due to her hastiness. Anko. Gee, get the hell out of here, Kurenai shouted, still struggling to get under her sheets. Naruto just laid there on the ground, groaning, barely conscious. Anko's smile could only widen. Oh, relax, I've been standing here for a while now. I've already seen everything. Kurenai was furious, but more so embarrassed. It was then that she realized something. With the door open, Anko? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking insane? I dunno. A lot of people say that I am close the damn door. Anko stepped inside, and closed the door behind her, calmly. Alright, sheesh, she said, shaking a finger around in her ear to stop it from ringing, due to Kurenai's outburst. I meant you get out and close the door. She threw a pillow at Anko. If she had a kunai nearby, she would have chose that instead. Anko caught the pillow, and by that time, Naruto stood up groggily while holding his head. He then remembered who else was in the room with him, and grabbed the sheets to cover his most intimate area. Kurenai, seeing that Anko wasn't going anywhere, sighed. How long were you there? Anko smirked, then glimpsed at Naruto. I've been here since blonde boy here started spanking you like an assertive parent. Their blushes both deepened to impossible amounts. Get it? Assertive? She said with a laugh. Kurenai sighed. Anko, I beg of you. Can you please get out? May Naruto and I please have some privacy? She asked, pinching the space between her brows. Anko's grin never disappeared, but she turned around and grabbed the door handle. I suppose. Just don't start another round before I get my camera. And with that, Anko was out the door. Kurenai looked at Naruto and saw the obvious embarrassment on his features. He looked at her. Maybe I should go now? Kurenai nodded hesitantly. Why, yeah. You can come here later on tonight if you want. Naruto nodded and searched for his scattered clothes resting in random rooms and areas in the house. He found them, then got dressed in record time. He looked at Kurenai, then looked away. I'll see you later, Kurenai-chan. Kurenai gave a small, goodbye, smile. He walked toward the bedroom window on the side of his bed. Kurenai figured that he'd resort to exiting through the window in fear of facing Anko, who was most likely still outside of the front door. He began to leave, until he paused. He hesitated before walking toward Kurenai. He avoided eye contact, leaned forward over the bed, and kissed her. Kurenai replied positively to his passionate kiss, by kissing him back with just as much passion. Once their lips parted, Kurenai and Naruto blushed. To prevent further embarrassment, he rushed out the window. Kurenai's blush still lingered, even as she smiled. She smiled not just because of the cute way he left, but because he called her Kurenai-chan. He's so sweet. No doubt, he could possibly be the perfect lover. She then frowns, but we can't keep doing this. At least not now. No matter how good, and satisfying, and addicting it is. Kurenai sighed and got off the bed. She found her bathrobe and placed it over her nude frame. As she was tying the sash, she looked out the window and glimpsed at the position of the sun. Her eyes went wide. It's almost sunset. How long have we? We missed breakfast, and lunch, almost. She face-palmed herself. Kurenai, learn some self-restraint for Kami's sake. She then shook her head and walked toward the front door. Not giving her any time to react, Kurenai opened the door and pulled Anko inside. She knew Anko was eavesdropping on the other side of the door. Hey. Easy. Anko exclaimed at being forcefully pulled inside the apartment. Kurenai closed the door and turned to face Anko. Anko had to admit that Kurenai's glare was intimidating her just a bit. Give me one reason why I shouldn't hurt you right now, Kurenai grumbled. Anko gave her best attempt at a sweet smile, because you love me like the sister you've always wanted. Kurenai's glare only hardened. She had to resist the urge to capture her inside a very painful genjutsu. A drop of sweat rolled down Anko's forehead. But nevertheless, Anko looked around the apartment. So he left? How come? The other Junin in the room didn't feel obligated to answer that question. Anko, why the hell would you barge in here like that? Why didn't you knock? I did, Anko said. I was standing outside your door for Kami knows how long, but you in your bed was making so much noise that you probably didn't hear me. Kurenai's blush returned. That's no excuse to barge into my house, Anko. Anko only shrugged. She then gave a smirk. So, how was it? From what I could tell, Naruto is quite the beast in bed, huh? Kurenai growled. That's none of your business. I'm so pissed that you walked in on us like that. And left the door open, for crying out loud. Kurenai then started stomping toward Anko, making her take a few cautious steps back. In my defense, I'm sure nobody besides me saw anything, Anko stated nervously. Kurenai backed Anko against a wall, and Kurenai lifted Anko by her trench coat. You're still wrong for it, Anko, Kurenai growled menacingly. Anko's sweat dropped. Hey, I'm not the bad girl, here. I'm not the one cheating on their boyfriend. Kurenai's anger suddenly disappeared. She put Anko back onto the floor and avoided eye contact. Anko noted how quickly Kurenai went from angry to sad. Hey, I was just kidding. I don't care if you had a little side meat and cheated on Asuma. I'm not going to tell anyone, I promise. Kurenai shifted, shaking her head. I didn't cheat on Asuma. Anko raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Because from what I saw, you were really letting Naruto give it to you. Kurenai gave a minor glare then looked away. No, I didn't cheat on Asuma because Asuma and I aren't together anymore. Anko's expression shifted into a mildly surprised one. Oh. And why is that? I thought you two were head over heels for each other. Kurenai had to bite back her lingering anger over the subject. Asuma dumped me. He said he didn't feel it was working out anymore. Anko's demeanor was unreadable. Then slowly, that very eerie smile spread across her face. She pulled out a kunai and twirled it around her index finger. So, do you want me to record it and send the tape to you? Kurenai was confused. Record and send what? Asuma getting bit by 15 snakes that contain the world's deadliest poisons. Kurenai had to stop Anko by grabbing the back of her trench coat once she turned around, heading for the door. Anko, as much as I appreciate it, I don't think that'd be necessary, Kurenai told her. Anko looked at Kurenai through the corner of her eye, still set on hunting the third Hokage's sundown. You sure? It'd be no problem at all. I can make it look like a complete exceed. Yes, I'm sure, Kurenai said with a small chuckle. Leave him be. I have no intent on getting revenge. Anko huffed and shrugged. Whatever you say. She then turns around once Kurenai lets go of her trench coat. So when did he decide to dump you? The day before yesterday. To the surprise of Kurenai, Anko gave a very amused grin. Damn girl. I figured you'd need some time to recover, but you've already decided to move on and get laid again, huh? Kurenai blushed. And no, that's not hey, don't worry, I don't blame you. I just didn't think you, of all people, would move on so fast. Well, that's not exactly. I figured you'd just spend some lonely nights here in bed, with a vibrator between your thighs, wondering why most men are assholes. But it seems that you already found a good replacement, Hold on, but you know I support almost every decision you make. Awesome as a dick for leaving you. So I guess moving on right away might be just what he needs to make him jealous. No, Anko, that's not damn. If only I had a camcorder with me when I walked in on you and Naruto. I would have recorded it and sent him the tape. Anko, yeah, that would have been excellent. He'd be so pissed. I'd love to see the look on his face. Wait, can you just listen? But of course, I'd keep a copy for myself. I mean, look at you. Your hair's a mess, you're all sweaty, and you smell like pure Dex. What you both did was hotter than any porno I've ever seen. Or maybe I'd make a lot of copies, and sell them outside of Konoha. Yeah, that sounds good. I'd have made more money than Jiraiya. Anko. The somewhat crazed Junin snaps out of her daydreams and looks at Kurenai as if she's been rudely interrupted. What? Can you listen, please? You've got everything all wrong? Anko rolled her eyes. Okay, so please enlighten me, Kurenai. I'm not using Naruto to get back at Asuma. That wouldn't be fair to Naruto at all. Naruto and I weren't even supposed to do what we did. So, what, did you and Naruto get drunk together and fuck till dawn? Anko said sarcastically. She noted how Kurenai blushed and got silent. Her jaw hung slightly in shock. That's not what happened, right? Not exactly. Kurenai mumbled coyly. Naruto and I did have a few drinks together last night, however. Yes, we had Dex, but it happened once, and we fell asleep right after. Anko was still slightly surprised. That doesn't explain how you two were fucking like a newly wedded couple when I got here, though. Well, when we woke up. Kurenai then shook her head. It'd be better if I just told you everything from the beginning. Naruto walked down the streets of Konoha with a small, content smile on his face. He was happy. But he was happy in a strange way. It's not the same kind of joy he'd feel when he'd receive free ramen, or learn a new jutsu or technique. It was hard for him to explain, because it was a new feeling. Kurenai really cared for him. He didn't realize it just because of the Dex, but because she practically gave him new life through her words and actions. And Naruto was so happy because of her. He wasn't sure where he should be going. He didn't want to go home, and he wasn't really in the mood to train. But an advisory sound coming from his stomach reminded him that he hasn't eaten in well over 12 hours. Having set his destination, he turned a corner, heading straight for Ichiraku's. Naruto moved the entrance like curtain out of his way, and sat on the bar stool. Tucci, the owner and employee of the store, turned to him and gave him a welcoming smile. Gaki. What's up? How ya doing? Naruto smiled. He felt proud to say this. I'm doing good. Tucci nodded. That's great to hear, he said. So what'll ya be having? Naruto left the ramen stand with a content stomach, as always. He paid the tab fully, and was on his way to his apartment. As he ate, he realized that his activities with Kurenai from this afternoon had coated him in a distasteful odor. And because of this, he decided to take a shower and get a change of clothes. He was only glad that no one around him noticed, or made an effort to make it known. Soon, Naruto reached his home, took a quick shower, and wore a fresh set of clothes. Sunset soon approached, and Naruto headed back out to go to Kurenai's. He figured Anko would have left by now. As he made a turn onto a certain street, Naruto walked by the Yamanaka flower shop. He began to paw it, until, by some force of nature, something told him to take a glimpse through the shop's window. He paused upon seeing Ino. She was behind the reception counter, with her face in her palms, crying. A little pain struck his heart upon seeing this, even though he wasn't really what he would consider friends with her. It wasn't like Naruto to ignore this. He walked into the shop, despite the store's sign reading, closed. The bell rung once the door opened, and Ino immediately looked up in response. She wiped her face, and tried to mask her sadness. Sorry, we're closed, she said with an effort to prevent her voice from cracking. Naruto walked up to the counter. I know. I saw you through the window, and I wanted to, make sure you were okay. The Yamanaka attempted to smile. Yes, I'm fine, Naruto. thanks for your concern. Naruto frowned when Ino failed to prevent another tear from falling. Is it because of what happened with Sakura? As if that were her cue, Ino broke down. She folded her arms on the countertop and buried her head into them. She was now sobbing. Her cracking voice echoed slightly throughout the somewhat empty room. Naruto looked at her cheerlessly. He now felt guilty again. Not only did his actions affect the life of Sakura, but affected the emotions of everyone close to her. He frowned even more when he thought about how this war has affected Shizune, and Lee, and Sunade. Naruto hadn't stuck around when he told Sunade that Orochimaru was the one that killed Sakura. In a small sense, he wasn't lying, and he used that logic to bring himself to tell Sunade the subliminal truth of how her #1 apprentice had fallen. But he couldn't look her in the eye as he told her. He couldn't even stick around to see Sunade's reaction to the news. He simply left after that. He hasn't seen or spoke to Sunade since, and to see Ino in tears over the situation reminded him of that. Deep down inside, he knows he lied to the Hokage, and he knows he could possibly be locked away, seeing as how his lie can be seen as an act of treason. He knows he lied to the woman that does nothing but want Naruto to succeed. But he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. He thought he was sure that she wouldn't see him differently if he told her what really happened. But a big side to him keeps telling him that she'll shun him. Naruto shook his head and pushed those thoughts into the back of his mind to deal with them later. He returned his attention to Ino, and decided to at least help her feel better. He walked over to the other side of the counter and rubbed Ino's back. "Why, Naruto?" She sobbed. "Why did she have to leave us?" Another pain struck his heart. He felt old wounds opening up again. He wondered if he even deserved to be in Ino's presence right now. He killed Sakura, her best friend since childhood, and if she knew that, she'd probably hate him. He wanted to tell her, but like the event with Sunade, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Hell, the only reason he told Kurenai was because he was drunk. But she only accepted him simply because she's not close with Sakura. If Kurenai knew that he was the cause of someone close leaving her forever, then she'd probably hate him too. Despite Naruto's self-induced guilt trip, he figured he at least owed Ino to help her feel a bit better. "It'll be okay, Ino. Sakura-chan's in a better place now. I'm sure she wouldn't like it if she saw you like this." Ino sniffled, and sobbed even more. But it's just so sad. Sakura was a good person, she didn't deserve to die." Yet another pain hit Naruto's chest, but he kept his composure. "I know, Ino." Then, Ino's lamentation increased, and she suddenly rose to hug Naruto. Her face was buried into his jacket, and she clenched onto him tightly. "There's so many things I want to say to her. She helped make me into the person I am today. Without her, I don't know who I'd be. And now that she's gone, I owe God, Naruto." She held onto him tighter, as if she'd drift away if she let go. Her crying was going berserk now. A tear shed from Naruto's eye into Ino's hair. "I'm so sad that she's gone. Of all people. It just hurts so much, Naruto." Naruto closed his eyes and hugged Ino back. "I know, Ino-chan, I know." "Wow. That's quite the story," Anko said. "So tell me, exactly why was Naruto depressed?" "I can't tell you," said Kurenai. "I'm not sure if I was even supposed to tell you that he was depressed in the first place." Anko shrugged. "Fair enough." She then grinned. "So, 4 times, huh? Foxboy has that much stamina?" Kurenai rolled her eyes. "Yes. We were only supposed to do it 1 more time, though." "But you multiplied that number by 4 because the dex was just that good, huh?" Kurenai blushed. "I always assumed the kid was a virgin, but to think that he'd be a natural." "Anko," Kurenai said flatly, "you're thinking way too deeply into this." "Not as deeply as Naruto being inside you, apparently." Kurenai's face now matched the color of her eyes. "Shut up," she exclaimed. "Why did you even come here in the first place?" Anko looked up at the ceiling, tapping her chin. "I forgot." Kurenai gave her the flattest of all expressions. "Hey, it's not my fault that seeing you get handled like a 5 Ryu whore distracted me of why I came here." "Get out," Kurenai said flatly. Anko laughed, and walked towards the door. "Fine, I'll leave you alone for now. And don't worry, I won't tell anyone about what I heard or saw today." By this time, Anko was outside the door, and Kurenai was on the other side. "Great, goodbye." Kurenai closed the door, except everyone in Konoha. Kurenai heard this and immediately opened the door. Anko. The Tokubetsu Junin was already down the hallway. Just kidding, she said. Naruto turned to Ino as they reached their destination. This is your home, right? Ino sniffled and nodded. Even though she calmed down quite a bit, she still continued crying while Naruto walked her home. Yeah. She looked at him. Thanks for walking me home, Naruto. You're really sweet for doing this. Naruto smiled at her softly. No problem. I'm really glad that I helped you feel better. She returned the smile. Me too. You're a really great friend. She gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek, and headed for her door. But before she entered the apartment, she turned her head back at him. See you later, Naruto-kun, and thank you. Naruto smiled. See you later, and you're welcome. Ino smiled and headed into her apartment, closing the door behind her. Naruto felt good, knowing that he helped someone that was going through hard times, just like him. He suppressed the thoughts stating that he was the one to blame in the first place, trying to prevent from bringing himself down. Naruto then turned around. He jumped when he saw Kurenai behind him. Kurenai-chan, he said in surprise. Hey, you scared me. Sorry, Kurenai said. I was just out to pick up a few things for the house. I didn't mean to pop up on you like this, she said. Oh, Naruto mumbled. I was just about to head back to your apartment. Mind if I come with you? He said with a smile. Sure, she said, with a smile that held an emotion that Naruto missed. Kurenai and Naruto headed back to Kurenai's home after she picked up a few groceries from the local store. However, throughout the trip, her mind was lingering on something else. Naruto noticed that Kurenai was quiet, but decided not to speak on it. He was now helping her put the groceries away. Naruto mumbled. I hope Anko-sensei didn't tell anyone about what happened earlier. Kurenai gave a small, but somewhat dead chuckle. No, I don't think she has or will. She's a close friend of mine. I doubt she'd do that. Naruto let out a breath of relief as he finished with the groceries. Okay, good. He then looked at her and saw the uneasiness on her features. Sorry if I pushed you too far earlier. I know that we'd agreed that we'd do what we did only one more time, he apologized. The Junin looked back at him with a sincere face of understating. No need to apologize, Naruto-kun. You didn't push me to do anything. I was also at fault for breaking our agreement, she said. Naruto nodded, but saw her uneasy look reappear. You look kinda, I dunno, upset, or like something's bothering you, he mumbled. Kurenai cursed under her breath. She didn't think or want her emotions to show outwardly. She thought she was doing a good job. Kurenai shook her head. It's nothing, Naruto, she said. Naruto scratched his head. Are you sure? You can be completely honest with me. I'd hate to see you upset. The Yui hesitated. She didn't want to lie to Naruto. He didn't deserve it. Things were quiet for a minute before Kurenai said something. Naruto, do you like Ino? The questions was so sudden and random to him. Naruto almost had to ask her to repeat herself. Ino-chan? And no, not really. He answered, then raised an eyebrow. Why do you figure that I like her? I saw her, kiss you when I was behind you. Naruto was confused. He was positive that the kiss Ino gave him was just an innocent peck on the cheek that didn't mean much. Well, yeah, but it's okay if you like her, Kurenai said, avoiding eye contact. Kurenai did, indeed, see Ino hug and kiss Naruto. However, due to the angle she was standing at, it didn't look as if the kiss was targeted for his cheek, and looked a lot more meaningful than it was. And for some reason, it bothered Kurenai. She didn't understand why. It's not like she and Naruto were a committed couple or anything. They only had dex 5 times, but it was just meaningless dex to help the other person feel better. Right? Or was it more than just dex? Was it something beyond that? Something that let them bond on more than just a physical level? These were questions that rampaged around in Kurenai's thoughts. She shouldn't be feeling this way. Or at least not yet. She doesn't want to feel like she claimed Naruto, because Naruto has the right to date who he wants to date, being that he is single. Kurenai has the same privilege as well. Dex isn't a relationship, after all. But, for some reason, when she thinks of the available men that she could date, all that comes to mind is a certain blonde-headed shinobi. She didn't want to say that she loves Naruto, even if it might be true. It's too soon for something like that to happen. especially considering the fact that she's still heartbroken. But could Naruto helping her through this dilemma in her life affect the speed of attachment she's growing for him? She didn't want to admit it, but she knows that it's a very high possibility. Besides, Ino was a lot closer to Naruto's age, anyway. And she had to admit, they do make a good couple. But the thought of them being together irritates her. And she doesn't want it to, but she can't help it. Naruto doesn't belong to her. And she doesn't belong to Naruto. But deep down inside, she wishes that wasn't the case. But she knew letting something like that happen too soon isn't wise. I mean, she continued, Ino's a nice girl. She's really pretty, too. So you can tell me that you do. It won't matter to me, she lied. But, I don't like her. He said, well, at least not in that way. Ino's just a friend that I helped feel better, since she was sad about the whole Sakura thing. Kurenai looked him in the eye. So, why did you two kiss before you dropped her off? Naruto displayed his confusion. We didn't kiss. She gave me a small peck on the cheek for helping her feel better. Kurenai showed a faint display of disbelief. She was pretty sure that Ino kissed him on the lips. But, it was possible that the angle she was standing at only made it seem so. Or did her jealousy trick her into thinking that? It wasn't an impossible though, and Kurenai knows, or is at least pretty sure, that he wouldn't lie to her about something like that. But being the precautionary woman that she is, Kurenai had to make sure. Just a kiss on the cheek. It didn't mean anything. You don't have feelings, Ino. Naruto chuckled at Kurenai's obvious jealousy. Yes, no, and no, Ino is just a friend. That's it. Kurenai let out a small breath of relief, one that she didn't know she was holding. It bothered her that his answer had such an effect on her, however. Oh. She mumbled, feeling foolish. But like I said, it's okay if you like someone else. You don't have to feel like I'm tying you down or something. She said. One side of her truly meant what she said. The other had plenty of disagreement. Naruto fidgeted a little bit. Since we're being honest. He started, then hesitated. I only like one person. Kurenai had to ask, who? A huge part inside of her was really hoping that he'd say that it was her. But Kurenai knew that this isn't a fairy tale, and she'll have to prepare for an answer that she wouldn't expect or particularly like. However, her question was answered. Not by Naruto's lips speaking the name of the person, but by his lips pressing onto hers. She was shocked by the kiss, but didn't put up much of a fight. She eventually returned the kiss, despite a part of her brain yelling at her not to. Then they found their tongues embracing in a dance. As their bodies started getting hotter, Kurenai found herself pressed against the wall of the kitchen. Naruto then moved his mouth lower, kissing under her chin. Then he began to kiss and suckle on her neck. Kurenai was breathless. And Naruto? She whispered. She called his name, but he continued, figuring that she was moaning his name in pleasure. However, she called his name again to spur his attention. Naruto-kun, please. She said a bit louder. Naruto stopped and looked at her. We can't keep doing this. Naruto looked away, feeling a tad guilty. I can't help it, he said. I really like you, and whenever I'm near you, I know, I feel the same way, Kurenai said, but we can't keep doing things like this. Naruto thought for a second. Well, why not? Because you're still recovering from things, as am I, plus, we're moving ahead of ourselves. If we keep doing this like this, our feelings for each other will grow. She hesitated. I admit that I really like you. And that I do want us to be together. But we can't, just not right now. But, who said that us being together would be a bad thing? Naruto asked. I mean, yeah, it might be kinda quick, but I think that if two people really like each other, and want to be together, they should. I agree, said Kurenai, but if we start off things too fast, then things can end just as fast. And if things turn out that way, we can really end up on bad terms with each other. And I'd hate to lose you, especially as a friend. Naruto looked away, thinking, Ero Sennin, despite him being a huge pervert, gave me advice on things like love and stuff on our training trip. He told me that if two people are mutually ready to take a step further into their relationship, they should. He said that a common mistake that people make when it comes to things like this is that they think they have to wait a set amount of time before they can start dating. But the truth is, that you should do it whenever you feel ready. Some may take longer than others, and some may be quicker. He looked Kurenai in her dazzling red eyes. Do you honestly feel comfortable moving forward? After all, you did say that you want us to be together. Kurenai paused, thinking about how she should answer. I think I'm pretty comfortable with the idea, but I still don't want to rush things. Who said that we'll rush things? Naruto asked. We're just taking another step. I don't want anyone else but you, and I don't mind being committed to you. Do you feel the same way about me? Kurenai nodded. So let's take that step. It's not like it'll change much regarding how things are between us now, because I'd still want you only either way. And we can still take things slow afterwards. I know we're still hurt over everything that happened to us, but I believe we can still help each other regardless. We can still learn more about each other, and slowly grow closer, too. And if one of us thinks that we're pushing things a bit, we'll back up for a bit and start again. Kurenai had to say that he was making a lot of valid points, and I won't let things get ugly between us if things go wrong. I refuse to let that happen, he stated. She looked in his cerulean eyes and saw that he meant every word. She concluded that he was right, for now at least, and that she should obey her gut feeling. She slowly smiled. All right, if you really think we should, then let's do it. Naruto smiled as well. I like the sound of that. He kissed her, and this time, she didn't feel a drop of guiltiness when she returned it. Naruto then broke his kiss and blushed a bit. Do you still want to? He hinted. Kurenai grinned and unzipped his coat. Naruto, lie down on the counter. I couldn't find him. Sunade-sama. Yamato informs the leader of the village. Shizune looks at Sunade to see her reaction and can see her narrow her eyes. And you've looked everywhere? The ramen stand? The training grounds? His house? She asked. Everywhere, stated Yamato with a nod. I even checked other places, like the memorial grounds and the hospital. This is where worry began to creep into Tsunade's mind. She hasn't spoke to Naruto since he and Yamato came back from the spy mission, and told her why Sakura was in the hospital. She saw how depressed he was, and has never seen him so low like that since she's met him. And now that he's nowhere to be found makes her worry what he's doing, or has done. She was somewhat sure he wouldn't leave the village because of his depression, and even if he did, she would have been alerted. She eventually convinces herself that he'll turn up eventually, and nothing should be of any worry. Well, despite Naruto not being here, I have some very important info to share with the both of you. Kakashi, who was sitting in one of the seats, now stands up and stands next to Yamato. Okay, shoot. Tsunade looks at them both. It seems that Sai has been found. The thing is, he's been found as a corpse, dead. Kakashi and Yamato were pretty surprised with this information. Sai. Yamato mumbles, but didn't he join Orochimaru? I'm pretty sure my wood clone saw everything. Yes, that much is correct, says Tsunade. However, Sai didn't join Orochimaru as an act of treason. It seems that Danzo assigned him to a separate mission from mine, sending him to infiltrate Orochimaru's hideout, then assassinate Sasuke Uchiha. Kakashi nods. He found it hard for news like this to truly shock him anymore, so I'm guessing Sai got caught and failed, since he's been found dead. Yep, said Tsunade, that's most likely what happened, and after inspecting Sai's wounds, it appears that he'd been finished by a particular lightning-style ninjutsu, the Chidori. It wasn't noticeable, but Kakashi was hit with a wave of regret. He should have never taught Sasuke that technique. So Sasuke was the one that killed him. He must have gotten quite strong over the years if he could take down an Anbu. Tsunade nodded. We don't really know if Sasuke had any help from Kabuto or Orochimaru, but if I know Orochimaru, I'm sure he would have just spectated for his own amusement. But wait, said Yamato, why wouldn't Danzo inform you, the Hoka guy, of something as important as sending Sai on a separate mission? Tsunade scowled and scoffed. I really don't like Danzo. He's a very sneaky person, much like Orochimaru. I'm sure he didn't inform me of his plan because he knows I wouldn't approve of it. The only reason he told me the truth when I asked him was because I had him cornered, and it'd make him look very suspicious if one of his top and most trusted root members betrayed the village and joined Orochimaru, of all people. Kakashi and Yamato nodded. Now I see why you wanted to inform Naruto, said Kakashi. It won't make him happy, but it would probably give him more motivation to train. There's that, she responded, and the fact that he is a part of Squad 7. He deserves to know. I still be a genin, but he's not a kid anymore. Kakashi nods. While I was in the hospital, I've been doing some thinking, and thought of a way to make him much stronger in little time. He then looks at Yamato. I'm going to need you for it, too. Yamato nods. Well, you two do what you must. I'm sure Naruto would love to hear that. With that, she made a gesture to tell them that they have been dismissed. The two Junin bow to their Hokage and leave the office. Shizune turns to her longtime friend. I wonder where Naruto is. I hope he's doing alright. Sunade stares into space, thinking, yeah. Me too. He's in the village, so we don't have to worry too much. An idea pops into her head. She opens a drawer to her desk and pulls out a crystal ball that previously belonged to the third Hokage. Shizune sees this with shock. Milady, do you intend to find Naruto using that? Sunade nods, but you said that you'd never use it because you'd feel like you're spying on someone. I'm using this because of my concern for Naruto. Not because I want to be nosy. She concludes. She hesitantly looks into the ball as she activates its power. Sunade stared into the ball for a few seconds. Shizune gasped when Sunade fell out of her chair. I will stop here, thanks for watching.